Hey everyone, so have you ever had a moment of thinking of doing something, and the moment that you decide you're going to do it, you pray about it? Like, if this isn't for me, like, don't do it, right? And God is just like, do it, but like this. And you're kind of freaked out because He didn't say no. So instead of doing it, you kind of like pray about it again, and you're like, God, were you talking to me? And He's like, yes, I was. Do it this way. Trust me, bro. So you do the thing that you think isn't a big deal. You like question yourself, like, why is it such a big deal for God? Because I wasn't really taking it that serious. So you decide to follow where this trust is leading you, and you realize that's all you really got is trust and the ability to follow. And then you realize as you're taking these trusting steps, no pun intended, you start to realize why God said, trust me, bro, because at the time, at the time, it just felt like the right thing, but did it make any sense? Not for my little brain, not for my little perspective. Then I remember the time that I got an opportunity to hang out with some famous folks, and it was the same feeling that I got that day. We were all hanging out, drinking, not necessarily smoking, but the smoke was in the air. I had been warned by my friend that drove us to this kick it that if we had not been ready to go by approximately 4 a.m., she would have left. And let me tell you, that trip to the kick it went from exciting that this was happening to fearful regret that you are the friend that I'm going here with, because we are not safe if you are willing to leave me while we hang out with a bunch of strangers. Needless to say, I went from rum drunk to rum sober in about 5 minutes and had an attitude, not gonna lie. Once we were all there, kicking it, time for a move from one location to another, I had a moment of discernment. Now you can call it what you want, but I'll say discernment because this moment was when God said to me, get out of there. I was embarrassed that I had that thought. Don't let me be the party pooper for the umpteenth time. But the longer I sat there, the more I was like, I guess he really said what he said. And it was another trust me bro. So I got up, shook everyone's hand, said thank you so much for the invitation. It's so nice to meet you all. And got both of my friends up and we left. Now, mind you, every time I'm told to do something by God, and He's like, trust me, bro, I always have that immature moment of, God, did you really say what you said? Did you really mean what you meant? Were you really telling me about this particular thing? And the way that I question it is in the form of, if you meant that, repeat yourself. And guess what God did every single time? Not only did He repeat Himself, He allowed me to have the level of anxiety where I would not forget that moment when it came up again later. Not only would it come up again later, but it would come up with clarity, understanding, and more truth than my tiny perspective, tiny understanding, and tiny viewpoints could see, hear, or touch, smell, or taste in that moment. And let me tell you, even though I was able to walk away from that situation and walk into other situations, does not mean that I was not smacked across the forehead or the back of the head or the top of the spinal cord, or whatever you want to say, also in real time. Now, you have to ask yourself, is God to blame for the smacking of the back of the head, the front of the lobe, the back of my spine? Not necessarily, but do I have scoliosis? Do I have brain trauma? Is my frontal cortex still suffering because of it? Maybe. Maybe it is. I thank God so much for the smacking, for the beat up, for the injuries to be healed, because without them, I not only would be in a place and space and time that I had less control than I do now of myself, but I would be in that space, place, and time with full functioning of serving someone else's wants, needs, and desires. And I'm more than grateful that I got smacked in the back of the head instead of coddled, protected, or even told that it was wrong for me to suffer. Now I want to say I thank God every single day because, not everyone has kids, but everyone wants to live long enough to see their life be worth something. And I'll tell you right now, if it wasn't for the fact that God has his plan for my life outside of my understanding, I would not be able to appreciate that my perspective, my viewpoints, my little tiny understanding is never going to be sufficient to walk in my purpose completely. Thank you, Yah. Thank you, God.